course, January 22nd, the year 2015. All right, it was a Thursday then. And the headline, state cancels frequencies for top 3 TV stations. And of course, the first one there, KTN, NTV, and Citizen, our colleagues. Media owners and managers accuse Communication Commission of discriminating against local stations in favor of foreign-owned firms and vow to fight decision to make KTN, NTV, and Citizen Television content-free for all right up to International Copyright Court. If you can get that paper, you'll check number 2, or rather page 2, for more information. But you also see there, Uhuru Kaiseri demand name of Langata School and land grabber. Cases that people also task us to follow up on as journalists. But very, very interesting headlines back in history. That paper was dated January 22nd, a day such as this, but the year 2015. Gentlemen, when you hear such headlines, you're praying and hoping that we remain standing after this conversation. Of course, Kenya Kwanza government has reassured over and over that the freedom of the press shall not be interfered with. Let me start with Kevin. Osido is a governance analyst. You gave us very key opening remarks when you started. You said we speak truth to power. And a lot is happening in politics. Yeah. Now, they say politics will guide governance, and it's the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Is it that way to today? We're getting to the 3rd year of the Kenya Kwanza government, thereabout?
For Kenya, it's quite, I would give it an equilibrium that is not balanced. So it is swaying depending on vitu kwa ground, largely, and much more fundamentally in the sense that government is not meeting the expectations of the people. And that at some given points, the people push government to deliver, and there's also a pushback by government, like we have seen in the most recent past, particularly around abductions and the silencing of critical voices emanating from the Gen Z demonstrations. And from the perspective of the media, we have actually seen serious atrocities being committed against journalists, including shootings, like what we saw with some of your colleagues in Nakuru. Here in Nairobi, we have seen journalists being tear-gassed, and with bare minimum accountability, in the sense that we do not see answers to the questions that are critically asked by both media players, the citizens, and even institutions of governance that are supposed to be, receiving answers on behalf of the citizens. So the context, the play on the ground for Kenya is that Kenyans are hopeful, looking forward to a very progressive picture. But unfortunately, the odds that are against the Kenyans, particularly from the government of the day, are quite huge, insurmountably so, in the sense that institutions are being crippled. Look at what's happening with the judiciary to a level where the Chief Justice has to ask for judges to be investigated by an anti-corruption agency. It means that things are not going on well. And if you move further and you ask for agencies like the National Police Service, where citizens expect that when things are not working on well, they can rush there and actually get some sense of justice, protection, and utumishi kwa wote, like in the bandage that we see, the banner that we see, our policemen and women, gallant officers putting on. So Kenyans expect that that utumishi kwa wote emblem will actually be there. But look at what we are seeing, to a level where the Inspector General of Police chooses when to appear in court and when not to appear. And I think that those are not very good images. They're not very good sense of play in terms of what the citizens of the Republic of Kenya expect. Of course, from government, the trials and errors are moving on, like part of what we'll be talking about today.
Trial and error. Let me hear from Ramogi. Trial and error, you say. I mean, Senator here said there is theft, there is corruption, all right? Looking at it against, merging of these parastatals, are we having misplaced priorities, or just not very keen on what to do at this point in time, according to you? Because you've heard what Kevin has said as well in the beginning.
Trial and error it is. For me, there's a statement you said that they are saying that they are out to merge the parastatals, but no one will lose jobs. The whole point, from an economic standpoint, the whole point of you merging the parastatals is that you can manage the wage bill. And if you're going to manage the wage bill, it means there are people who are going to lose jobs. It also means that we expect to have some savings from the mergers, from the dissolution of some parastatals.
About 2 billion, I think.
Yes. So if we are going to save that amount of money, those are salaries that would have been paid. Those are allowances that would have been paid. Those are cars that would have been bought, but those are drivers that could have driven those cars that are no longer needed. And so I think someone is playing politics somewhere when they say that no one is going to lose jobs. There has to be job losses. From where I stand, this process has been in the works from as early as the last term of Kibaki administration, when there is a report that was done on the efficiency of government and the need to merge some of the parastatals as they are. And when that report came, it was expected that this would be implemented as soon as the first term of President Uhuru. But you know, after you have won an election, there are some of your colleagues that carried your flag somewhere, maybe in Makueni, and lost against Mheshimiwa Manzo. And you want to see, where do I fix them?
Yes.
And of course, then you remember there's a parastatal called Jomo Kenyatta Foundation. And you namwambia weka hapa. So this weka hapa thing has kept these parastatals in place for over 10 years, beyond their expiry date. So the need to do the mergers, the need to do the dissolution, the need to do the reversion to the ministry is there. And there is good reasoning for it, that we need to be efficient, the government needs to be efficient. However, I am not as excited as every Kenyan about this being implemented, because the same way Uhuru needed to take care of his men, is the same way Ruto needs to take care of his men.
So you're saying this might have more political implications than the economic?
No, I'm saying this might not see the light of day.
Is it? Interesting. Interesting.
This is already being implemented.
No. You see, being approved by cabinet is not equivalent to being implemented.
All right.
So then it is approved by cabinet, but you know, someone somewhere has to be told, do this. And that someone somewhere has to be, for him to be told, the president has to reflect with a few advisors. And that reflection might give you some other results.
Very interesting, and I want to hear from, because Senator here also has a legal background. And Senator, you've also served, I believe, as a member of parliament. We have acts of parliament. We have the State Corporate Act. Yeah, but in Senate, of course, yes. But now, you know, we're looking at the Act of Parliament, which of course assented, I believe, 1986. An Act of Parliament to make provisions for the establishment of state corporations for control and regulations of state corporations and for connected purposes. When he's saying this might not see the light of day, are we looking at some legal implications this far? I mean, what is your position? First, as a senator, as a Kenyan, and with your legal mind.
And as a member of the opposition.
Yes, I have been in the National Assembly for 10 years, and now a senator for 2 years, and therefore I've seen a lot of laws be made to start state parastatals. You know, each single state parastatal as an act of parliament. The only way to kill an act of parliament is to repeal it. Now, if you have not repealed any of these acts of parliament, then you have not killed that particular state corporation. And if you are going to combine acts of parliament, then what method will you use? It means then something has to be brought back to the House to say you put these and that state corporations together, and this is the new legal framework. So, you know, state corporations are legal persons. They can be sued and they can sue. So some of them have serious debts, they have serious suits in court, like, you know, and they have serious liabilities. Some of them also have SACCOs, you know, they have statutory deductions all over the place. So this is a matter which I believe has not been carefully thought through. a team of experts should have come up with a formula. You must now find out what is wrong with a certain state parastatal so that you may kill it. And when you kill it, if you combine several state parastatals, it means you have lost several CEOs of parastatals. You have collapsed them into one CEO. And similarly with many other, opportunities. So I thought the first thing would have been, making them work. And for example, when the agriculture parastatals were collapsed together to, a single agriculture managing or regulating parastatal, there were so many other parastatals which died, the sugar board, and this and that. But now, members of parliament have come back. This was done by President Uhuru in 2013, 2014. They have now come back to set up again, through other statutes of parliament, all these sort of things. So there must first be a law, and means another year or so, parliament must be legislating on this. Where it is a devolved function, it must go to National Assembly and come to the Senate. So I think this is an exercise in futility. It's another lie of the government that we are going to save money, we are going to do ABCD, but I don't think it is happening.
But Senator, we've had the privatization conversation. We saw what happened with Adani last year. Bless you, we understood, because we understand that those in government, just like, you are sitting in parliament, understand the processes, all right, understand the legalities around this. When you say that much ought to have been done prior, are you then telling Kenyans that we need to check who is in there? Because systems ought to work, a constitution is working, acts of parliament are working. So where have we missed track? Because we don't want to waste Kenyans' time. And of course, you would understand some of these parastatals did not start ailing with the Kenya Kwanza regime. It goes way back, like you had some of the panelists saying.
Yes, a lot of these parastatals own land, which is one of the targeted issues. And then when you say you privatize government institutions, it means you are selling them to individuals. So there has not been proper due diligence and who is buying this parastatal, for what purpose, and why are you selling it. You had heard that KCC was being sold because it was making losses. Parliament was a tenant there, and the Parliament was paying, a huge sum of rent. And I believe KCC was very profitable. So, it was a story which had to be pushed, Kenyans had to push. And I think we must consult widely. You cannot even combine or wind up these parastatals without public participation, without following the due process of law. It's just going to be unconstitutional. And I think it's going to leave a lot of suits. And Kenyans have watched one mess after another. They have tried to talk, they have been kidnapped, they have been killed, and a lot of Kenyans have, kept quiet with a lot of bitterness. Lack of IBC, which would be regulating Parliament, because there's a right of Kenyans to recall members of Parliament who are not performing. We have dead members of Parliament and those removed through election petitions, MCS, and for almost 2 years, a constituency not, having representation, somebody to talk for those people on the floor of the House. So we hope Parliament this time round will stand strong. Kenyans are watching Parliament. All these matters have to be brought to Parliament, but most important, there must be public participation. Let's hear what our experts, they have very many brilliant Kenyans.
All right.
It is not only members of Parliament who are brilliant or those in executive. That's why we should seek opinion of many other experts, economists like him, to advise us before we take such drastic actions.
And I'm going to come back with that, because there are other critics of Ruto who are saying this might just be another strategic political plan for his 2027 campaigns. In fact, Kalonzo Musyoka is telling him to go slow on that. We'll come back with that conversation. We continue with the panelists right here in studio. But first, this very important commercial break.